again, my name is Amanda. I'm an education major and a PTK officer at Phoenix College, and this video is a follow-up to the interview I had with the charter school principal on how his team approached the COVID-19 pandemic. Again, a big thank you to Mr. Catten for that opportunity. Now, having talked to an administrator, I thought it was important to get an in the classroom perspective on how COVID-19 has impacted the learning environment. With me in this episode is Amy Bettner, a math teacher at Phoenix College Preparatory Academy, who has continued educating students throughout this pandemic. With a wide possibility of approaches in a short amount of time, Amy tells me firsthand how educators work to continue school online while also making sure services like computer access and free lunch could still continue. Thank you to Amy for having this conversation with me, and I'll roll into the video.
Perfect. Alrighty here. So this is going to be the next episode in our series for the Phi Theta Kappa series with Phoenix College about different challenges that have been going on during COVID. Today I've got a teacher from the Valley here who teaches from 9 through 12, who's just going to talk with us a bit about what it's been like teaching during the pandemic. How are you doing today?
I'm good. My name's Amy. I'm a math teacher at PCPA, and we have had some interesting challenges and some interesting things happen since COVID started. So I will just let you take over the questions and fire away.
Well, let's go ahead and start with what was your school's response to the pandemic and how has that changed how you teach?
The first thing that we did prior to last year's spring break, which was almost a year ago this time exactly, we discussed options for online and what potentially could happen during break. We thought we would have a 2-week shutdown. And at the time, we decided to go asynchronous and get a couple of weeks worth of assignments ready so that if we shut down, that we would be prepared. And I want to say maybe midweek during spring break, we were told that we would shut down for sure. And so we were all working on asynchronous assignments and trying to figure out our platform is Schoology. So we were trying to figure out, how can we put those lessons out there and, videos and things like that for students, and then video ourselves and make it available to students for that asynchronous work. We also prepared by, we have one-to-one computers here, Chromebooks. So we, I don't know if admin put out messages or the office or who, but offered students computers who could pick up. We had our 2 or 3 teachers that would come and take computers to those who couldn't come get them. And then we also offered hotspots at the time. We had food drop-offs and pickups because a lot of people were unable to get that lunch that we offer. And then we also offered some extra, I don't know if it's the St. Mary's Food Bank that offered places, and we would go help with that as well.
I know St. Mary's been doing a whole lot.
Mm-hmm. Counselors and the teachers really stepped up to help. Whenever a student needed a computer or needed a hotspot or needed something, someone was always there to, take it or be here to give it to them if they, needed to come to the school or whatever. But that was kind of our plan at the moment. How did it change the way I teach? It changed it in several ways. Trying to utilize what I normally do in the classroom, I kind of had to cut about what I put on paper in half, as far as the amount of work, because it was hard to gauge what they were getting, what they were understanding, and so it took about a third more of the time to get it across to them. So I don't waste a lot of paper anymore, for sure. The copy center is not going to recognize me anymore if I ever go back there, because last year I copied a lot. This year I haven't copied anything. I think cutting my assignments down to the bare bones teaching the basics, teaching basically what I need to get across versus giving them a lot of extra stuff to do. I realize that's probably how it's changed the most. So.
And I don't think we ever really truly realize how much we print off or use paper until we can no longer physically hand a paper to somebody and either say, fill this out, or, this is what you need to do, or even showing them. It's not quite the same anymore.
That's right.
So I know that's been an adjustment for me, because I can't just hold the paper up to the camera and be like, this here. So
I think that was one of my first experiences with online, when we came back to the classroom to teach from here, even though the kids aren't here, and I held up a notebook and just wrote in the notebook because I wasn't Zoom savvy yet. So I'm like, something's got to change. I have to learn this now. So
definitely. Well, that actually goes really great into our next question of what challenges you face. I know obviously, learning how to use all this new technology has been interesting. But what other challenges have you faced, especially with the very quick switch that we did?
Well, the first one is, learning the effective online platforms, especially to teach geometry with all of the shapes and visuals and things like that. And there's some really great programs out there, but first of all, learning Zoom. Second, we started with, what's the other one? WebEx. We started with WebEx, and then we went to Zoom. So having to learn two different ones first, and then Schoology. I wasn't as savvy with Schoology. So those kinds of things. And then probably the other big challenges were keeping kids engaged, understanding, knowing if they're actually paying attention. When I have them share screen, I let them turn their camera off, but for attendance, I had them turn it on, so I at least know that they heard me turn their camera on and then turn their camera off while I share my screen to them. Getting kids to complete the work. If they're engaged, they generally complete the work. If they're not, I don't see their work, or asking for help when they need it. Keeping students online for the whole time. So that's probably another one. They log in, get their attendance taken, and then if I, reach out to them in the chat or ask a question and they don't respond, and then they continually don't respond, that was a big challenge for some students to, I don't know.
It's so easy to set up your phone right in front of your laptop and be watching YouTube or chatting with your friends, and they're like, oh, the teacher's talking to me.
Yep. Oh, did you call me? Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yep. Oh, man. Well, I know you've talked to me a little bit about using first WebEx and now Zoom and Schoology, but what other new technology and tools have you used during this time?
Well, for sure Zoom, and the annotation of in Zoom, the whiteboard, being able to draw a few shapes. It doesn't have a lot, but it has, more than I was able to use, a year ago. Desmos, for sure. I use that graphing calculator anyway in the classroom, but finding out, even the kids knew things I didn't know. So we've been sharing secrets back and forth about ways to use it. And then I have a special ed and another teacher in the classroom when I have my math lab. And so they know tricks and things. So we're kind of learning from each other things we probably would never have learned in the classroom in person, because we're not sharing so intimately like we are on Zoom. GeoGebra is another one for geometry. That's an excellent one. You can't use it on the state test like you can Desmos, but it's an excellent tool for students to be able to draw and look at shapes and look at how they're constructed and things like that.
That's pretty nice.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's pretty nice though. Some of the technology they've come out with to help facilitate learning has really been pretty amazing.
And it's free. The ones that I've just talked about are free, so there's no charge to use those. And the fact that we know that state testing uses the Desmos, then we help our kids learn how to use it so that they're able to quickly and effectively use it on the test. I excel for online practice, being able to use an online platform that helps students have rote practice on things makes it a huge difference, because putting a worksheet out there, having them write down their work, take a picture of their work, upload their work is cumbersome, and I get a lot more work done, or kids do a lot more work for me if it's on this platform. There's a couple others. Math OpenRef is a good one, and then mathspad.co.uk is a geometry constructions tool, and it shows like a video of the construction, and the kids can then go back to the video when they're doing it. So it's really a really helpful, useful tool. Our other math teacher pointed me in that direction because he's been here a couple years longer than I have, and he uses that a lot to show the kids. And then I think the other thing is the chat. The chat has been excellent for quick check for understandings, and I can tell who responded, who didn't respond, and I kind of have a little system with the check marks in the participant list, where the students can check off when they've sent me an answer, and then I can check and see who's really done it real quick. It's not, I thought that would be the hardest thing. It's probably been the easiest thing to help me know who has it and who doesn't. So
yeah, it's funny the way that goes. I know for me, like, the stuff that there's been in Zoom has really, really helped a lot. When this all happened, it obviously happened fairly quickly, and on Sunday, I knew for sure that we were not going to be in person. And on Monday, I need to figure out how to hold a huge review session for midterms that were coming up. And I was like, I don't know what system to use. And I wind up, we all got on Skype and figured it out. And it's definitely evolved since then. If you were...
What you got to do at the moment, so...
Ingenuity,
teachers.
If you could go back to a year ago and how you responded then, what would you change compared to what you know now and everything that you've learned?
I think one of the things is I try to find more ways to get to know the kids. It is so hard. I mean, I at least had the advantage last year of I knew my kids at the moment we went through this, but starting with a whole new class of freshmen in August, trying to find more ways to get to know them better would be one thing I would change. It's hard. We see a lot of ceiling fans and a lot of ceilings and a lot of, from here up. And so I don't think I would know many of them on the street. And so being able to have a personal relationship with them over Zoom is just almost impossible. I mean, some of them are very outgoing and will chat and say hi and how are you? And those are the ones that I tend to get to know better. But the ones who are quiet and don't say much, and even if I chat with them and don't say much, it's difficult. It's those personal relationships are hard.
Well,
I honestly don't. I don't know what else, because I think getting to know them better would probably make the whole experience better.
No, I understand that. I mean, even when I'm taking classes right now, I don't know my peers as much as I used to. And I used to get to know several people. So those are the people that we can get together and study. And now I'm like, oh, I think this person in class might know a little bit about what they're doing. But you're still not sure, because for the most part, it's either, you have the top of their heads or you have a black screen that's right there. So, They
don't like that I ask them to turn their cameras on, but, even getting a glimpse of one who rarely says anything, and she's got her hair a different color, and I say, oh, I like your hair in the chat. And, just having that kind of response or that little conversation, helps a little bit to show that I do care, I do notice, but I don't know enough about them to make a whole lot of comments. So.
It makes this very impersonal thing of working over the computer a little more personal.
Yes.
Well, what has been some of your favorite things that have come out of this year, though? I mean, I know this is all a little different, but I'm sure there's been some wonderful things that have come out of it.
Actually, spending time at home, being able to be at home, interact with my son lives with me for now, and have him see the kinds of things that go on with the classroom and things, and actually him being able to see what I do on a daily basis and what we deal with on a daily basis, good and bad, or good and, helps my family see how hard this is, especially in this environment. Favorite things. I think being able to use some of the technology I never knew really well before has helped.
I know I never expected to be able to use half the stuff that I use now. I always joked that my generation's supposed to know computers, but I just know how to print. And now I'm like in Zoom and highlighting things and, using the whiteboard and stuff and showing, like talking people through how to sync up their web camera now. And I never thought I'd be able to do it.
And I think of myself as a pretty tech savvy person, but since then I feel like I'm just keeping my head above water, trying to keep up with the latest thing. At the beginning of the year, it was very difficult because one person would say one thing, well, we need to use this or we need to use that, and I didn't know any of it. And I'm like, okay, pick something so that I can at least start to learn it. But I do think too, one of the other things that's come out of this is my relationships with my colleagues is so much better because we talk so much more, we interact so much more, even though it's not necessarily in person. We have made the time. We've had a couple of just social distanced outing just to chat, and then at lunch our picnic tables out here are 6 feet apart, and just the time to just discuss some things or just interact. We never did that before, so
that's really nice, though.
I think that's been really good.
I think something we never really think about how, even though y'all are all in the same building, you're in your classroom for most of the day, and there's not as much interaction between the other teachers outside of right before school, right after, in a meeting.
Okay. So. And we have some group chats and things like that go on so that, we could discuss something that needs to be discussed real quickly that can't be an email, or, it's at 8:00 at night and, oh, did you hear from this student today? Or, that kind of thing, that we feel more comfortable reaching out to each other, I think, because of that.
Yeah.
So
I like that. That's pretty nice.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I think about, especially going into education, I had never considered the idea of teaching online like this, where it wasn't just a asynchronous class where you don't see the students, but where you're doing Zoom and everything else. So something that I keep wondering, like, how is this going to change education? And I, as someone who's been in education for a while, what do you think? How do you think this is going to shape that and change it?
I think there's going to be a lot more online programs, and students who did or who were very successful in this environment will see that they can push themselves. I did my master's online by choice, and it was a self-paced program. So I did it in 3 semesters instead of 4, saved myself some money, and those kinds of things that I think hopefully some really good programs will come out of it that weren't necessarily there before, like high school programs. I mean, not that we've got it down pat, but we've done a really good job of trying to make sure everyone can be successful. And we've been over backwards to help the students and try to be there for them. And I don't know, if we'd ever consider an online environment strictly, but until the pandemic is completely, I don't know that we'd say eradicated, because I don't know that that's ever going to happen. just like the flu, with COVID, I think it's going to be an ongoing thing, but until enough people get vaccinated and things like that, we're going to have some kind of online,
Yeah, I will say though, I am looking forward to the day where I can be next to a student again and be like, oh, this part right here, this is where you didn't graph it right or whatever.
It's so hard. That part is so hard. I mean, the check for understanding is easy for certain things, but for graphs and, things like that, you cannot, you just cannot.
Yeah, I do a lot of on Zoom, like trying to highlight and show them, look, this is where it should be lining up. Is yours lining up here? Because it's not quite the same when you're not in person for that. And I know it's definitely something that I'm looking forward to as well. So
those graphing apps do help, and being able to share a screen and work in a breakout room. I do like that part. Some of the kids, I gave them a survey at the end of last year or at the end of 2020 and said, what can I do differently to help you? And one of the things was more breakout rooms to get to know their peers.
I like that.
It does work for some classes. For some classes, a lot of them just sit there because they don't want to interact. So it's hard to know. I know which classes will interact and which won't now, but at that point, it was hard to know. But I think the breakout rooms really made a big difference too. So I don't know. I feel like eventually there'll be more high school programs that are individualized like ours are, but I don't know. I see more online programs just because of the pandemic, so that if we ever get to that point again where we'd have to do it, it would be an easier transition.
I know I'm definitely looking forward to seeing how education is going to change and going to adapt, because I know even in 2 years from when I graduate to join, I know that it can change a lot between that time. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what's going to happen with it. Well, I really do appreciate you coming and joining and doing this interview so we can discuss, what teaching has been like during the pandemic while COVID's been going on. And I do appreciate that.
I was happy to help, and I hope everyone finds it useful. So.
Definitely. All right. Well, thank you now.
You have a great day.